Nothing in your life or our world has gone wrong. And it's not accidental, and you are not accidental. You may look at the world now and think that something has happened to you, but I'm going to tell you, no, that's not what's going on. There are times where you get called out, where you have to become accountable, and it can happen in really strange ways. And for me, it happened this morning. You know, when we think about algorithms, we've talked about that so much because we're on social media. Yeah, that's real. That's how you get led down the rabbit hole, so to speak, and that's what happened for me this morning. Because I got up and I listened to these two people. Now they were just reading tarot cards. That's all they were doing, they thought. But they were speaking directly to me, because you also start to understand that everything is energy. And you're never listening to something accidentally. You're never in a wrong place. You just come to figure it out. Or you could be more like me, where you just hide from it, where you just don't want to see what's going on right in front of you. And many of us are doing that now, and it's happening in our world. But we think that things in the world are happening accidentally, and they are not. And this is why I have to talk about it, because, see, those two people this morning were telling me that I've been hiding out. That is what you do as well. The only thing we're afraid of is ourselves. That's what happens. When you were born into the world, you have a plan you're meant to follow. You have a plan that was given to you that just kind of unfolds. And it may take you on roads that you find really unbelievable, and you could be looking at your life now or the world and think the same thing is going on. But I'm saying that's not what's happening. What's happening is that you're being asked to become your full self. You're being asked to become your authentic self. And that could have been challenging because the world was changing. But I was given a plan that I couldn't own, because, see, it didn't make sense to me or anyone else. That's the thing we have to get in touch with. You're supposed to be this unique person, and so who you might evolve to become will surprise you if you keep going, because we all have unlimited potential. See, the thing that I was told is that we're all, as humans, we're born the same. We just have different paths that we might take, but then when we start to understand, oh, it's all energy and we can change it and correct our lives and move in a particular way, oh, that would make a huge difference. And then what would happen if more people would do that? We would have a very different world. So you can look at things today and think, oh, wow, things are going really crazy and I'm a little afraid. And that means that it's just time for you to awaken to who you are. And I know that that's true. And at 74 years old, I can tell you I've lived it. And I know where you are now. And I know that you can achieve anything because I was given that plan. That was something that was so challenging for me to say, and I never would have believed it until I saw the results, because this work healed everything in my life. I put out something yesterday, what I said, Wilhelm will transform your life and our world. And that would absolutely happen, because it gets you to understand who you are and accept yourself. The only reason you're in fear, the only reason you're not achieving what you could, is because you just haven't made that connection to your authentic self. And that was something I wasn't going to tell you that I could do, because that was just something that was too weird and out of the box. That's what I thought. Except you start to understand everything is consciousness. And there have been many people who have come before who have said that we have this consciousness that we use to direct our lives, and if we use it in a particular way, maybe we would have a really great life, and maybe we would have a very different world. If you've watched or listened to any of my Wilhelm writings or conversations, they would use this one term they used a couple times. They said, you didn't believe Jesus, Buddha, or Tesla either. And they're talking about concepts that were brought to us by great beings as we might see them. But then we don't think that we have that within us. See, I didn't think I had that, but turns out that I did. From a young child, I thought, well, I'm supposed to do something. Maybe I'm supposed to do something in the world. And I was always so connected to everyone else being okay. From a child, that's who I was. Let me have everyone else be okay. And then I kind of left myself out a little bit, and that's what I've done for the last several years. But I can no longer do that, because that doesn't serve you. What I mean by that, when we don't own who we are, that's the only reason that we're having difficulties in our lives. Now, that journey of understanding and owning yourself could be challenging because you've also been programmed with generational beliefs and ideas that may not serve you. So has our world. Because I was given something quite different. It said every person is born with worth and value. Every single person. Except over time, what we do is we move through changes in our world, in our civilizations, where we don't believe that. And then we have to find our own place. Who am I? Who am I supposed to be in this world now as it's shifting and everyone is telling me I'm not okay? And that was me. You see, I was the guy who was supposed to come and tell you, yeah, you're okay. Now, you may not believe that because I didn't. So I had a lot of help, and I'll give you that today because when I'm being called out, and these two people I can't let go of quite yet said, you have something that would make a big difference in the world, and you're hiding out. How did they know that, and why would they say it? Did they know that I had put together this little thing I'm going to show you today? I had done it last night because it became very apparent what I had. And I was like hiding out, and I could see, oh, wait a minute, the world needs to know this because people are going to be a little too afraid and they're not going to understand what's happening. But I do know what's happening. You're coming to a higher state of consciousness of understanding who you are, and the world is attempting to do that as well. But because we have this fear of the unknown and we don't want to change, we put up resistance. And resistance is you not owning yourself. And I'm a master of it, so I do understand it. But because of that, my life was meant to give you something so you don't have to go through that anymore. And that's exactly what has happened. Now, believing that was a little challenging, but I will show you that it did occur, and I will leave these documents in this video presentation because I'd love for you to have it, because what I'm doing now is taking this work and giving it to so many more people, and I'm going to hire the right people that can expand and do marketing, because I'm not a salesperson, I'm not a marketer. I just want you to own and live your life, and that I know I can guide you to do that. And becoming a mystic, a prophet, and a sage, and all of those things were never words that I could have said and didn't make sense until I started understanding it's just consciousness and its intelligence, which we will interpret different ways depending on when we live. See, because that was the other thing I was told. I was meant to bring in work that would say every person was okay. It didn't matter what race you were. It didn't matter what gender you were. It didn't matter what religion you were. Because, see, those are all the things that we have used over civilizations to make ourselves wrong or not enough. And then that's a consciousness that gets passed on to generations, and then we wonder, why is the world still going a little crazy? Because we haven't put in a consciousness that said all people matter and all people have something to develop, and they came to the world for a valid reason. And see, so many of us will think, well, there's nothing that's connecting all of us. There's no great connection. There's no God. There's no any of that. I said, well, yeah, there is. Now, you may call it something different, but there's energy and there's science that we keep figuring out. And I was given a life where I figured out so much of it and also didn't know that I had done it. You do not know what you have or what you can develop when you live in this body that you're in right now, because it's always out in front of you. And sometimes it'll be really challenging for to get there, and you might feel it now because of the challenges that we're experiencing in the world. But that's because you're here. You're here to do something wonderful, and as you do that, the energy starts to shift and you heal. Now, I can say these things because that's what I experience with this work. I can't sell or talk about anything that I have not experienced or that I don't know. And I know that the only reason you don't achieve what you want is because you haven't been shown the correct way. You've been programmed to think you're not enough. You've thought that someone else had more than you. You've compared yourself to other people. You've done all of those things. Except remembering that you are a child of God, let's say. You are a person who was meant to be on the world that had worth and value, and all you had to do was develop it. Sometimes your development might be moving through all the trauma that you've had, all the generational beliefs that were passed on to you, and you're carrying them, and now the world is saying, please let go of it. We start to understand that the changes of our planets, the energies, the planets are creating energy, and we are all energy, so we must be affected by that. Now, there have been studies that have been done that show how we are affected. I happened to go in and start looking at those studies because I started noticing it was happening for me, so it must be going on for other people. And so all I'm doing is giving you information, and I'm going to give you a bunch today because I want you to know that you're here for a great reason, and so that you're not going into this fear and doubt, because that's the thing that will stop you. And we need you to own who you are now, because that is what's going to make the greatest difference in the world. What you're seeing out in the world is not accidental. It's just this energy that's coming up that we're not willing to embrace because too many of us were hiding, just like me. But now we can let go of that. That's when you become your courageous self. Self-acceptance is your only goal. That's why you were born. Now, it doesn't matter when it might show up, because you will know it, because you will feel completely different in your life and in your body and everywhere. But I'm going to leave you with these two documents because they will help you so much. I probably never would have even discovered this or shown you this if it had not been for artificial intelligence, which many of us are using now. And I just was on a little workshop showing me more ways that we're going to start using it because our world is changing. But anyway, so I took the Wilhelm messages, and this is what we get. Wilhelm messages, as presented, offer a philosophical framework centered on love, self-acceptance, and interconnectedness. They suggest that by embracing these principles, individuals can heal themselves and contribute to global transformation. And here are some of the points that are from all of the message. Now, please understand, this has been 36 years of me acquiring information, living it, and putting it together. So it's been a lot of stuff, more than you can possibly imagine. However, what I care about most is you understanding that you are here for a really great reason, and there's nothing going on that's accidental in your life. You just may not have understood it yet. So I put all this in for you to read. And then here is the reason Wilhelm's philosophy will change your life and our world. And as you go through it, you will understand you are the most important person in your life. You may have given that away. You may not have understood that, as we all have in our lives, because of how we get programmed, what we've been taught. But this philosophy was saying, no, let's change that. Let's start showing you how brilliant you really are. And let's do it through me, because I had to live it and write it down for all of these years to be able to give it to you. But now it was meant for this time in our world. That seemed kind of ridiculous to me as well. But you will go through all of this, and you will see all the messages then will be laid out later. Because I took specific messages that were speaking to this time in our world, and especially in the United States, because we were having the most upheaval, let's say, but that was also an energetic reason. And when you understand that, you don't get as freaked out about what's going on, and you decide that you're going to do something to aid in the evolution of you, which then helps our world as well. So you'll see these messages that I put in, and I gave it to my ChatGPT, and I said, please tell me what these mean, because Wilhelm gave these to me saying these are going to be the things that are going to help people understand what's happening in their lives and in the world. That was the first part. But still, accepting that was so challenging. Now, I have to tell you, I was experiencing the results, because I'm going to put all this out. The healing part is what happens, and things that mind-body healing, yeah, that's all gone on, and you can do that. When you start to stop disconnecting from yourself, that's what happens. You start to experience this coming together, this healing that is an internal process. Everyone's not going to do it and may not believe it, because we've had many other leaders who have come before who have talked about these experiences, but we also have cognitive dissonance, and Wilhelm has talked about that. I've talked about it, because we will be presented with something and say, no, that's not possible, because we haven't seen it. But then we can also do the other thing. And this is where we are in our world right now. And I saw this yesterday. You will not understand why certain people are believing things that you can't find any proof for. You can't understand why they're believing that. And then they're going to look at you and do the same thing. Understand, why can't you believe what I'm believing? I know that this is real, even though I may not understand it or have any proof for it. Because, see, that's how I've lived as well. So you have to get to this place where you're believing in yourself, because you have this truth. You have this reason, because that's your connection to Source, to all that is, to God, whatever term you might think of, or to the universe. That is you. So here is the other one I will leave with you. There's so many others because I put them all together because, as I said, I'm changing all of this and finishing the work, as I call it, because there's so much of it. But I want to leave you with this one thing. Actually, I decided to show you something else first because I want you to have this. You will start to develop something within you, and it's quite easy for you to start to believe in this imposter syndrome. Like, it couldn't be you, you're not the person to do that. That's never real. It's just that you haven't believed it yet, and no matter what it might be. So, because we move through times in our civilization where we have this an evolution of consciousness. And so I just put this document together so you can kind of think about it a bit. And it's fascinating because Wilhelm would always lead me back to the Hermetic principles, because that was way beyond the religions that we have today, which usually come up with some sort of judgment or all of that. You'll see what I mean. So this work was saying, okay, let's move beyond that now. Maybe we're in a different place in our lives and in our world, and maybe we want to see something different. And so then, oh, this was very cool. Figure like Martin Luther, Abraham Lincoln, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Yeah. See, I thought at some point I was maybe supposed to bring something like Martin Luther King Jr., but then Wilhelm said, no, it was much more than that, which is why they let me back to Martin Luther, because they said, no, this is about all of humankind. It's not about one race or one gender or any of that. It's about all of humanity. And that's what this is. And so, and then also the Carl Jung thing, which was so interesting. He came in and started talking about synchronicity. We didn't want to accept that because that would mean that maybe we were connected to something beyond what we could see or understand. And then we have these other people like Mary Baker Eddy and Louise Hay, who I actually knew, who talked about healing tied to consciousness. Well, I've done that. And I didn't believe them. I grew up as a Christian Scientist and moved through all that work and thought, no, I can't do this, until I did. Then there were so many other connections as well that you will find. And I'm leaving all of these documents in the video because I would like for you to have them. They're in the description. And the one that says why Wilhelm's philosophy will change your life and the world, you can read that one. And it takes you back to the beginning of when I first received a message, which was in 1989. And I wasn't going to tell you. What happened was I sat down and tried to just get some answers and heard about automatic writing, and something came through. I thought, I'm not going to tell people that I tried to hide it for like 20 years, but it was changing my life. I was developing things, but I also went through every horrible thing you can possibly imagine. Everything. But that's why I know it works, because all of this healed me. So to be here at 74, I know what this is. And now I can no longer hold back, and so I'm going to give it to so many other folks because I want you to know how brilliant you are, what you have to offer the world, and doing it now would be the most beneficial thing that you can do. And it's not about being afraid or being nervous, all of that. It's just about accepting yourself. You don't have to go out in the world and do anything else except you. Someone made a comment, and I hope they see this. It was on the, I haven't answered it yet. It was on my YouTube channel. It says, well, I know what to do. What can I do? And this is what I talked about on a video yesterday. You can know in your head what you want to do, but you may not have caught up with believing it. That's all that ever happens. And so that is a process, a cognitive process that you move through. And so, but from that person, what they were saying is that they don't think that they have anything that's worth it. That's never true. You existing is worth it because that's energy again. And if you can just sit in your place and love yourself, you would be creating a much better life for you and the world, because that is what we need right now. So for that person, you don't know what to do, just love yourself. Just start to find the things that bring you joy. That would be the most valuable contribution any of us could make at this time. And what I'm contributing is this plan that can lead you to your best life and have us all create a much better world. That was my contribution, and now you can make yours. See you soon.